Everybody, welcome back to Deal Flow Live. I'm one of your hosts, Brody Vinson.
And I'm your other host, Ryan Santa.
And on this show, we talk about all kinds of business deals. We talk about businesses that are listed online for sale. We give our opinion of their value, and we talk about who might make sense to buy this type of business. And today, we're actually focusing on a particular category because I have a friend who knows of a sovereign wealth fund that is specifically looking to deploy at least $50 million at a time on healthcare businesses. So Ryan and I wanted to take a look at some healthcare businesses. Whether or not we'll find any good ones on market, we'll see. We're not really sure yet, but we wanted to take a look around at some of these larger deals and just kind of dive into just nothing but big deals today. So Ryan, what are your thoughts kind of going into the healthcare space? Like, what's been your experience with it so far?
I think that my most prevalent experience is seeing nursing homes and seeing mobile IVs. Just what I'm exposed to, I think, is more of the list what it is. But when we went to that franchise expo, one of the things that stuck out to me was the senior care aspect and how many people are driving senior care franchise businesses, which are, I think many of us would agree, is near and dear to our hearts to have proper care for seniors. So it's very interesting to see these businesses, and possibly some that I in the future would love to have and be able to take care of people's very loved older family members. So I think this is a very important space. I think it's a very dynamic space, but one you have to be very careful of.
Agreed. Yeah, there's a lot of like very exciting activity going on in this space. One thing that comes to mind immediately is I do think it's important to be aware of what are trends and what are not trends in the healthcare. And because you talk healthcare, you kind of talk like healthcare, wellness, and like everything that comes in under that umbrella. There are some things that are more trends, but there are also businesses that are very much long lasting, solid, steady businesses. So we're going to take a look at some of these really big ones. Let's see. Let's try to find something real big. So this looks like it's just very highly priced. Let's look at this one. This is huge. Specialized Medical Diagnostics Lab. So this one is $43.5 million. It is just under $6 million a year in cash flow. And this is doing some big numbers.
Yeah, it's definitely a large one. But as we've seen on the show and we talk about often, the higher your cash flow is, the higher your multiple. So you may be thinking, wow, that's over a 6 times multiple. Well, if you're bringing in almost $6 million, yeah, you can ask for 7-8 times multiple because you're worth it.
It's true. I'm trying to think through like the exact math on this. I'm going to try to do the math real quick. Been a long day, so my mental math is a little lacking. But we're looking at roughly, let's see, 43.5 divided by
do a flat 6.
5.9. Yeah, so it's over a 7 times multiple. But when you get to this level of almost $6 million a year in cash flow, this is not uncommon to see.
Because the people who have this money aren't gonna really be that upset about that multiple because they already have it. They're dealing with millions on a daily basis. This is a drop in the bucket for them, most likely.
It's true. And so I mean, like, you're thinking 7-8 times multiple here. To be honest, like, surprisingly, this is actually a pretty decent price for that level, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, when you get above $5 million a year in cash flow, like, it's pretty typical to see that kind of stuff. The reality is you could probably buy, a few of these and combine them together and all of a sudden get above a 10x multiple. So that's kind of like the play that you would be looking at here. Now, if you're a usual watcher of this show, these are the types of deals that this is not like your everyday person can just walk out and do this deal. You can't do SBA financing to do a deal like this. This is large deals that you're looking to, like a private equity firm to bring in, or some kind of like a sovereign wealth fund like we were talking about. This is a little bit below their minimum size. But you're talking about a much larger size here, and something that has just a totally different type of buyer, which is kind of interesting. Not usually the type of deals we talk about on the show. It's just very interesting to see how they look and how they're set up. The thing I find pretty fascinating about this one is they're very limited on the amount of information that they show on this. What are your thoughts on that?
I think when you step into the more I don't even know, like it's a medical field, but like I feel like when you get into this vein of medicine and medical technology, everybody's trying to be as kind of vague as possible, because sometimes a lot of times people have proprietary stuff or tests or whatever, or they work with a lot of different networks of businesses that are in the healthcare space, and they can't necessarily give too much because you might know who works with them. So I could understand how this one would have to be a little more like hush hush about any details further until you signed an NDA.
Yeah, I could see why it's a little bit more tight.
And obviously, if you have that type of money, you might be their competition.
And yeah, if you give up too much, it might just like by the time it's that large, it might be just too easily identifiable, I guess. So it looks like that's the largest deal that is available in the healthcare space in the USA on BizBuySell, at least. Let's look at something not quite so large. How about pain management? You want to touch that, or have you had enough of thinking about that kind of stuff?
No, let's dive right in. I everybody needs their pain managed, which is like, what a weird. I feel like that's just called aspirin, like Advil.
I think they're just trying to stay very general. It sounds like it's a chiropractor agency, of some kind, or chiropractor business of some kind. If I had to guess,
weird.
I haven't really ever heard it called just pain management.
Yeah, I mean, I think chiropractors are just weird in general. So I wouldn't, I mean, I'm speaking from experience. So strange group.
We actually have back-to-back Synergy Business Broker listings. The last one and this one.
They must kind of cool.
We do a lot of healthcare. We're working on a healthcare business right now on my team. For anyone who's kind of tuning in, I actually am on one of the teams at Synergy Business Brokers for some deals that I work on. So we're working on a healthcare business at the moment, kind of like a medical treatment center. So stuff is near and dear to my heart. But yeah, we do a lot of healthcare deals within Synergy. It's a very hot area right now too.
Oh, that's the one you work with?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, 3 years and I'm just learning this.
Okay.
Good day for education. So I guess I'll be kind to this listing. I mean, pain management is so weird because, again, like chiropractic is its own very niche vein of medical practice, and it's certainly one that has a lot of, some people love it, some people dislike it, some people are like, look, I felt better, and it just does what it does. But pain management is so broad because that can be acupuncture, that can be, alternative medicines. I mean, there's such a wide range of things that people will try to get rid of their pain, which is, unfortunate that that this has to be a subsector of the medical thing. But I would say this is a business that you probably this is definitely a bolt-on. Is basically what it's going to boil down to. I don't think a single medical practitioner would necessarily buy this and walk right in and be like, as a doctor, I know what's happening here. I think you'd have to have a network that you could use this very, specifically in, especially in New York. In Queens, it's very, they probably work with a lot of hospitals if they are as good as they are. So you're probably dealing with a lot of insurance too, if I'm being honest here. And I don't necessarily like dealing with insurance through any payment processing if I can avoid it.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think it's hard to know really like what to go off of for this business without more information. One thing I'm surprised about is they don't really list the inventory or the FF&E or anything like that. So it seems like, again, they're trying to be a little bit withholding with information. So the second one in a row that doesn't list the amount of employees as well. So it's kind of tough to go off of much without that.
Key thing that I'm looking at here is the practice's success is accredited to the lead physician. Good for this guy or girl. They've done very well. Is seeking to step back from day-to-day operational responsibilities. However, he is fully committed to remaining on board, not only in an advisory capacity, but also a practicing clinician. That's big. That definitely that sways me to the other side of, well, that changes the story but again, I'm gonna, I'll be the half empty glass type person. He's not necessarily, if he doesn't like you and he's not happy in 6 months, he can just walk. you can sign a contract all you like, but if he's unhappy, he'll go do something else. So
unless he's holding equity,
unless he is holding
I
equity,
feel like
which
that
is
would be
part
kind
of
of
the
an
deal.
instrumental part of this. So for anyone kind of just tuning in, like a lot of people imagine that if you buy a business, you have to buy the entire thing. But one thing that's very interesting is when you buy a business, you can actually have the owner stay on in a certain capacity. It's not to say everyone would be willing to stay on if they sell their business, but if you kind of pitch that and like make an offer based around them staying on, a lot of times they might be willing to. And they might actually really be able to help kind of like keep control of the business during a transition and help you, grow it and continue to run it. Just depending on how you set that up. So it's always something that you could proposition, make an offer on, and sometimes it's a really good thing to do.
So, and I think when you're looking at deals, seller financing is in that vein. I think it's very important to see, when that's noted, because it's a signal of somebody saying, I'm willing to get this in the right hands and I'm willing to hold a little bit of it to help you get it. I think we're always more cautious of somebody who's like, I will not stick around. I am opposed to all of that. Somebody's willing to stick around, especially if you can do some sort of like earn out, if you can figure out a way. I'm currently working on a deal where the owner is literally going to hold 50% of the deal. They're like, yeah, I'll do it. That's crazy. That's great. Mostly it's 30 to 20, but this
when
guy
you say
knows what he's
hold
doing.
50% of the deal and seller finance it, could you get into that a little bit more? Like, how does that work?
So the deal is structured that let's say the deal is, we'll just use simple numbers. Deal is $100,000. Owner says, you give me 50. You will pay me back the other 50 over X amount of time at X percentage. So they're basically saying, I'll be the bank. And that's usually a good sign that somebody is fairly well off. They don't need this money. And they're simply looking to do something different. And this is not going to make or break them, which is a good business owner to deal with. It also means that they understand practically that they're trying to get this into the hands of somebody who wants to grow and continue a business that they still see value in. Because why would you hold money if you didn't think it was going to come back to you by the business you're selling? So always dig into everything, but that person also knows enough to say compounding interest. If they say, hey, I'll give you 5% interest on this, which is SBA is like 10 to 12. And usually somebody seller financing will give you a better rate because it's them. They're going to make more. They're actually making more on their money over the next, whatever it is, year, 2 years on that interest than they would have if they just asked for the money flat up. So it shows a savviness, and it definitely shows a confidence in the business that they know it'll be good for it if you don't, if you do what you need to do.
And it also makes it dramatically easier to purchase the business as someone who's buying it, because if you don't have to come up with all that cash at once, you can kind of focus on growing the business. And also, like, if you're financing some of the business through itself, the business is essentially kind of paying for itself, and like, at least in part, if you structure it right. If the business is making, $100,000 a year in cash flow, and you just have to pay the owner 20 on top of the 50 that you gave them, then essentially the business is paying for itself and giving you some profit left over each time. So it can be very interesting in that sense. And the more seller financing you can get, the easier it is to just buy more business and buy yourself into more cash flow.
Yeah, the seller financing, the more they do, if they're working with a broker, the more that you realize that the broker must know that this is what the market's like. The owner is acceptable. The owner is reciprocal to, or I don't know, I'm trying to say a word. It didn't come out either time. The owner is open to that. They understand the broker is a professional and they trust them to give them the right advice. And they also trust the business. So I think it's always good to look for that. And I don't see it on this one. But then again, when you get this high up into the numbers, nobody's seller financing.
It's much less common to see it at this level. Let's look at one more.
Yeah, buddy.
So
mobile podiatry.
Do you want to look at that one?
Yeah.
That actually sounds really interesting. Let's talk about some feet. Some people solid feet picks. This is solid feet
this corrections. One away for free, so
yeah, that one. Whoever took that is, I hope they're getting some residuals on that.
Buddy. FF&E is listed. That's a new.
Yep.
Established 2023.
Wow. So that's shocking.
For that number, yeah.
They must have got some kind of investment to really like blow this up. If it's literally been around for 2 years and it's making or not 25, 12 million, almost $13 million a year. That's pretty incredible. Maybe it's not their first business. Maybe
this could be a serial entrepreneur who teamed up with a medical professional.
it could be. Yeah, this is impressive stuff. I mean, if it's growing that quickly, like this business is clearly onto something. It kind of breaks our rule, which is interesting because we like to see a business that's very well established. Part of me is saying like it's a little bit risky that it's like it's only that old and there's a lot going on. The other part of me is saying, my God, like 6 million in cash flow out of $13 million a year in revenue, not far off from being 50% profit margins. You know, this is a pretty incredible business, and they're not asking that big of a multiple for 6 million in cash flow. And at the end of the day, just a little bit over a 4x multiple.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. And you know that there's a shred of truth to this because it's being represented by a broker, and no self-respecting broker is going to list a business for these numbers if they haven't seen them and confirmed them and said, okay, this is probably where you're at. Wow, look at these numbers. So that's a strong thing. I mean, Eric looks like a nice gentleman to talk to. So this is interesting. I think, like you said, it may break our rule, but the fact that it's only 15 employees, I mean, that's podiatry insane. It's 6 weeks. We have our issues with those training stuff. Change of pace and lifestyle, which to me might signal that this business is owner run and it takes a toll. They are burnt out.
Yeah, change of pace and lifestyle is the reason for selling.
Home base, which means they are probably doing all sorts of stuff.
I would want to unpack that a little bit, like why the change of pace and lifestyle. What does their current role look like? Also, with the we'll train at 6 weeks at 0% cost. I would want to understand a little bit more about what their current role in the business is, because if they have a heavy role in the business, that's a problem. But at this size of business,
6 weeks?
Probably don't.
No.
Well, at this size of business, they probably don't have a very heavy role in the business. I think the type of person that would be buying this business.
Surprised. I mean, some of these CEO types, they get locked in.
It's hard to build a business to that size that quickly, doing everything yourself, though.
But we know some people who have done it and work 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. almost every single day and do very well for themselves, but are like, I need to change lifestyle. That business is great, though.
It's true.
I'm not saying this one isn't, but I always this is always my point. Ever since our favorite business broker Patrick Lang said this, all these ideas for growth and expansion, everybody has them. They're always there. Look at how simple he lays it all out. The plan is there. It is you just got to go and execute on it. Well, if it was that easy and straightforward, why didn't the person who owns it do it? Well, because this is going to take time to implement this stuff. And if you don't know how to do these things, like work with it, if you don't have insurance connections, because the insurance industry, no shock here, you need to have connections, and you need to, because nobody's just going to talk to you off the street for the most part. It's a very niche thing. And I think that if you were buying this one, you clearly must have an existing company that this would complement, because I can't conceivably say that somebody who wants to get into a business and just happens to have 20 mil on the ground should go and do this, because this seems like there's grow fast, grow hard, burnout. Like,
yeah, this is pretty wild. I'm very curious about this with the multiple that it's at. There's got to be some kind of con in here, some kind of
Disney World trains a guy to do to press a ride button for 6 weeks. It takes 6 weeks for them to be okay with them to run the ride at Disney World. One ride. Are you telling me I'm going to run this company in 6 weeks? Absolutely not.
It does say at 0 cost. So my guess is like that might be them just saying, hey, if you want to keep us on longer, you got to pay us.
Maybe. Yeah, that's a weird thing to put.
With that much cash flow on the bone, like you could be paying them a couple $100,000 a year and barely dip into it.
If I had $6 million a year, I would be buying up as many people to work in this business and then hiring the guy to consult with those people and basically remove myself as far as possible and take just basically what I need.
Mm-hmm.
And just be like, yep, did the check clear? Great. All right.
Yeah, this is pretty astounding. So, I mean,
I do think there is a value in the mobile podiatry and mobile services because with a lot of people being bedridden or having issues traveling, it's much nicer to go to somebody's house and help them out and be able to supply that sort of care to people who can't move. So I do think this is a very good business model.
of course, yeah. I mean, I think they're probably seeing a lot of like elderly folks that like aren't really accustomed to leaving their house often. That have been that like kind of in that stage where maybe they're in a home already, maybe not. Maybe they're going to a lot of homes to service these people, or maybe they're living from home still, but
Mhm.
they're kind of in that weird zone where they're not leaving the house much. They're not in like a old folks home yet. Um, that's probably the type of clientele that they're servicing here, if I had to guess. That need that kind of care. So, final note here, like, who do you think would buy a business like this?
Definitely, I think some sort of healthcare provider. If you had a hospital and you knew that, hey, you could send out, you could do some like on the fly stuff and you could get out to your people and you didn't have to maybe use up a room, you could free up some space in your hospital. Hell, if you have a doc in a box, which is just like what I call walk-in clinics, a walk-in clinic could add this and be like, hey, any foot stuff or wound care, we can send it out to you. It's a $50 write-out fee for every mile past this radius.
Yeah, like however it is they charge.
It also
just
would
making it
save
like
up
an
some
ancillary
EMT
service.
space because I'm sure when these people need something, you call 911, you get an EMT, which emergency services are great, but if it's not life-threatening, scheduling something like this does free up some services.
This is one where I'm surprised that it made it onto a listing, as a kind of a final note, because I would think that one of their larger clients would buy them.
Yeah.
Like their larger clients are probably like I said, like old folks homes, like senior care living facilities and that sort of thing. Maybe like non-specialized healthcare facilities. Like they're probably working with a lot of those, I would guess. And I might be wrong. Maybe they're mostly going to people's homes and that would change it. But I would guess that they're probably going to a lot of these other like medical facilities. And so I'm very surprised that they didn't get offered to be bought by one of their customers that just wants to bring them in house and kind of control that cost.
It is a steep price, but yeah, I would think that there'd be somebody who's like, let's make a deal. Like, let's figure something out.
Yeah, like a big, like a huge healthcare center like that, like a hospital or something like. Probably not a hospital, like, but wherever they're going, like if the place is large enough, they could probably get some pretty good financing to be able to do this. Like some pretty good, yeah. Cora fan says it is fair to be skeptical. Would love to hear a little bit more about why you think it's fair to be skeptical. I think it's fair to be skeptical on any business deal. But yeah, like a lot of times, like these larger deals, it's almost like a little bit of an air of suspicion about like why did they even make it on a listing site? Because usually they get scooped up before they do. So that's the one thing I will leave the audience with. Not that us or like the average Joe is looking at necessarily buying a business like this. This is more just for fun, but I would be curious about why it made it to this point.
I would too. Yeah.
Anything you learned on this episode that you want to kind of leave the audience with?
I know the healthcare space is thriving and well. I mean, we literally clocked in minimum 3 mil cash flow, and I didn't think we'd get almost any hits because those never show up. But apparently, there's a cash flowing business for just about every type of person and every budget. We just chose to go with the larger ones. So it's a good space. If you have experience, people who want to do it, I think it's worth your time to look into and invest in if you can.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool space as well. One thing that would be very interesting is if you come from the healthcare space and maybe you're kind of getting into business and maybe you're trying to get involved in something like this. Maybe you could get yourself in on a deal like this and bring it to, maybe you come from working at like the type of place that's one of the customers of a business like this or something like that, or could be a customer of it. Maybe you work for a large senior care facility that's paying a lot to have mobile podiatry come into the business, and you say, well, hey, would we buy a business like this? Could I maybe get involved somehow? Like, and then, you get involved through a route like that. There's lots of different ways you could potentially get involved, but, I think it's just important to understand why it got to this point and why it is listed and be a little bit skeptical.
Yeah, you always have to look at them with a bit of skepticism, but that's just, can't be married to the numbers. You got to actually dig the deal.
Exactly. Well, this has been Deal Flow Live. I think we all walked away with a little bit more knowledge about the healthcare space. I saw some interesting businesses I would have never thought about today. Mobile podiatry sounds like a very good business model, to be honest. Maybe the last thing I'll say you could take away from this is if you come from the healthcare space and maybe either you're a doctor or a physician or some kind of like specialized physician doing a service like that, could be a very good sign that that's a good route to take a business model. Maybe trying to buy one of these or like a smaller version of one of these, or even start a mobile podiatry business or something like it. If you have the experience to be able to do it and want to kind of go out on your own, could be a very good way to kind of make a new business model.
Oh, for sure.
Well, we will see you on the next one. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Tune in every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to be able to see these types of deals and hear us talk about them. Corafan says, I'm in the group healthcare insurance space at a startup that has offers already within network, but has a long-term viewpoint and looking to scale. That's exciting stuff. And it sounds like a really good time to be involved in it. I would recommend maybe looking at deals like this every once in a while just to understand, if you guys already have offers on the business, like to buy it or to, invest in it or something, look into deals like this that could give you a scope of like how they're being valued, what they're asking given the financials and what's going on in it. You might be able to help with that deal and help kind of bring that stuff together if you understand how it's being looked at other businesses in the space. And for the last question we have here, Frederick SW, I went to college at UCF, University of Central Florida. And actually, so did Ryan.
And so did you.
Yeah. Well, I said, yeah, so did Ryan. We both went to UCF for our master's in business administration. I actually also went there for my undergrad, so I'm a double UCF grad there. And Corafan says Florida Atlantic University. Awesome.
Hey, FAU.
Florida is in the
FAU. Been there a few times.
Florida's in the chat.
Florida Atlantic is beautiful.
Well, we hope to see you all on the next time. Tune in every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and bring deals you want to talk about. If you're interested in a particular space, maybe you're working in it, like Corafan here said, or maybe you're just interested in buying a business or owning a business, starting a business in that space, bring up that kind of industry and we'll talk about it and we can dive into it a little bit deeper and just talk about how deals work in that space and what our opinion is. Ryan, any parting thoughts?
Nope. Just keep your heads on a swivel, keep learning, keep tuning in, and join the Discord if you want to get involved in some of the community stuff that we do.
Yep. And find Ryan on LinkedIn if you want to get in touch with him and message him. Ryan Santo Ryan Santo MBA on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn as well or Instagram. Those are the best two places to message me. I'm on some other places as well, but if you're looking to get in touch with me, that's the best spot. And if you want to join the community that Ryan mentioned there, we actually have a free community called Scale for Sale, where you can come in and talk about all this types of stuff, buying, growing, and selling businesses and all the stuff that goes into it, the deal making around it, private equity, and a lot of the other stuff I talk about and Ryan talks about on this show. And the link for that is in the bio of my Instagram.
Yeah, we get members who have actually completed deals recently. Actually, it's crazy.
We do. Yeah. A lot of people bring deals to talk about in there and just kind of talk about them a little bit more deeply, bring the financials, kind of like run it by the group and bounce stuff off of us just to get their advice. So if that's something you think would be valuable for you, it's at the link in my bio to join. Just go there and check it out for our community. And in the meantime, we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.
That was a good one.